Hello people, I'm Flame, and today we will be talking about alts, and more importantly, should you play Havoc Demon Hunter in 8.1. In today's video, I will go over a few of the changes that Havoc has received in 8.1 coming from 8.0, and if it's actually a good fit for you guys to play. Of course, at the end of the day, it's all subjective and it comes down to your personal preferences. However, I will try to be as subjective as possible and hopefully make this decision easier for you. I've been leveling alts for the past 2 months, and I usually play multiple characters all throughout an expansion. I cannot say I'm an altoholic, but I can put into perspective specs, judging a few key aspects that I think are important when choosing an alt. We plan on covering more classes and specs, so make sure you are subscribed to our channel if you're interested to find out more things about the spec you are playing or the one you are planning on playing. The leveling process has actually been the best while playing Havoc. And this translates into world quests and anything you want to do that's part of the open world. Obviously, gliding from place to place is immensely useful and saves you a bunch of cash on goblin gliders. This will remain true until we get flying. But even when we get flying, the outdoor gameplay is still pretty cool for demon hunters, and that hasn't changed since Legion. As for actual changes to the toolkit, not much. Chaos brand has received a quality of life change. Previously, it activated upon dealing chaos damage, while now it activates for all damage dealt. The PvP talents have received some tweaks though. Demonic Origins has been nerfed to not offer the 5% extra damage outside meta. My PvP experience comes from playing against demon hunters. It's hard to not sound biased, but the pressure demon hunters put out, especially on me as a healer, is pretty big, and I doubt this nerf will change that. Mana Break has been changed, and now it deals 5% of the target's max health as damage, and it increases the cost of their spells by 30% for 10 seconds. I actually like this change, as opposed to the just damage like it was in 8.0. Even playing against this is more interesting because mana management is pretty big for healers and arcane mages. And lastly, since Havoc is the king in fucking up people's mana, Mana Rift has been nerfed. The detonation time has been increased to 2.5 seconds from the baseline 2 seconds, and the range has been nerfed from 20 yards to 8 yards. The detonation is still good when paired with Fell Eruption, and looking back, the 20-yard range activation seems over the top, with the mobility Havoc has and the range interrupt having pretty much all the important tools at range made it seem a little bit ridiculous. If you thought that Mana Rift was shit, well, it's not. It's still really good, especially against healers like Discipline. But hey, I am no gladiator, I just know what hurts my face. Moving on to traits, the usual trait replacement happened for Unbound Chaos, and it was replaced by Chaotic Transformation. Chaotic Transformation makes your Demon's Bite and Demon Blades deal extra damage, and it refreshes the cooldown on Eye Beam and Blade Dance once you pop meta. Coming from Legion, this trait is funny because it acts like one of our artifact traits that we lost. Bringing it back into the game as an Azerite trait, however useful, seems comical. On the outside, it looks like they have taken away our candy only to give it back and call it Content Edition. It seems to be seeming really nice in AoE situations, and it's actually better than the majority of the traits. It doesn't look like it will take the top spot, and I'm not sure I want it to. Having traits that not only boost our damage but also changes the playstyle is what we have been asking for. And although we had a similar mechanic back in Legion, it's good that we are getting this back. Not to mention, with the release of the raid today or tomorrow, depending on where you are, we will have a 5th ring of traits. And with a little bit of luck, we can actually create interesting combinations of traits that can spice up the gameplay. Havoc, and Vengeance as well, has received a new defensive trait way down in the inner rings. The trait is Striving Chaos, and it's essentially a lifesteal trait. Spending Fury and Pain heals you for 10 and 25 respective health per point spent. It feels really nice to have this mechanic, especially for Havoc. It brings back the playstyle in Legion where we had crazy sustain. Obviously that shit won't fly in BFA, but if we can sustain at least through a few of the plethora of poisons and debuffs we get in Mythic Dungeons, it would make this amazing. It's a bit of a shame that we can't aim for it, since we either get it on one of the pieces that we want with the main traits, or we don't. But if we do, I'll gladly pick this baby up.
Now, mortals, Follow me into the abyss.
So, is Havoc a good spec for you to pick up in 8.1, Season 2 and the new raids? Yes it is, and here's why. First, the playstyle. Let's talk about it and see if it can be a positive factor when deciding on picking up the spec. I will try not to compare it with the Legion playstyle since it won't be a fair comparison. But I can just put it into perspective with specs like Fury Warrior and Enhancement Shaman. And we cannot talk about the playstyle without mentioning the GCD. As a member of the fast melee specs, the GCD doesn't affect Havoc as much as other classes. Don't get me wrong, it's still shit in terms of gameplay, but Havoc is still in the top classes that didn't get fucked up by the GCD as much. Also in 8.1, Vengeful Retreat has been taken off the GCD, which is a big positive aspect. In terms of ranking, from my personal opinion, Havoc feels way better than Enhancement, but has a while to go before it reaches Fury. I enjoy the playstyle, and I can feel the GCD being less and less of an issue the more haste I have. Lastly, let's take a look at performance. It's there. Havoc is amazing in whatever it does. It has huge DPS output, especially for AoE situations. Raiding treats Havoc really nice, since the majority of bosses come with adds that require mobility. This puts Havoc above a lot of classes simply because of the AoE potential it has, and the fact that it's probably the most mobile spec in the game. All of this translates super well into mythics and arenas. The AoE and cleave damage output Havoc has is bonkers, not to mention that it has 2 AoE stuns, a third single target one if you talent into it. Darkness is also a major defensive tool, especially in PvP, which, if you played with or against a Havoc, you know that it's pretty much useless to try and DPS him down, or his teammates for that matter. Aside Chaos Brand, we got Consume Magic in BFA as well. This is essentially a purge that gives us 20 fury once we actually purge the enemy, keeping in theme with our interrupt. As a general overview, I can definitely recommend Havoc to you guys. The only downside I see it have is the playstyle feeling a bit oversimplified, and the GCD doesn't really help. But since most classes have this issue, it doesn't feel like a big minus overall. Everything else makes Havoc a really good choice going into Season 2. We post videos on multiple classes on Marcelian Online. I, Flame, usually cover the PvE aspects of the game, while Marcelian goes into more PvP stuff. If you want to stay in touch with everything that we do, follow us on social media, where we update you guys regularly. I hope you found this video helpful. I've made Havoc in Legion, but I haven't played it as much in BFA, and I'm actually really curious to know what you guys think of this spec. I usually play and plan on gearing a lot of alts in 8.1, and I wanted to know if Havoc is a priority or should be a priority for me. If you have any opinions on the spec, just leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time.